Hello, photography and friends. Friends, what's up? Welcome to the Black and White Photography Challenge live stream. Happy to be here today and just excited to be on this photography journey with you. How are you all doing? Let me know in the comments below who is tuning in, where you're tuning in from. I see some familiar faces already on the participants list. So excited to see Bill and Bob, Suzanne, Kristen. Thank you so much for being here on time, ready to go. David, welcome. Welcome. See people popping in. Visa Leila, welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, share something, where you're from, what camera you're using with the rest of the members. And I also have a question for you that I'm going to do. Let's see. I'm going to post just a question, which is you could comment, and I'm curious about, and I'm sure others are curious while we get started. What is the most challenging aspect of photography for you right now? I think that's an interesting question. And as we welcome more members live with us, I'm going to share a couple quick updates for us. So let's see. I'm going to share my screen. All right. Where am I? Updates. Share. All right. So as you probably saw and accidentally got a handful of emails yesterday, which I apologize about, I updated the gallery space here on Plus. I realized that they have this new option where it creates this really beautiful gallery view of all of the photo or of the post. Instead of a text post, it's more of just a basic image post. You can post several, almost similar to an Instagram type feed. And I think it works perfect for the gallery space, which we had, which is like the space where you want to show off your best work. It's a space where you're not necessarily asking for critiques or have questions, but just as a place to share your work. And so what we're gonna do is I unfortunately couldn't just convert the old gallery space into this new format. It had to be a whole new space within the community. And so I am going to deactivate the old gallery space in the next week or so, as long as everyone's happy. I think it worked perfectly for the gallery. I was even considering or wondering if this would be a good format for photo critiques, although I feel like with photo critiques, there's more of a desire for the commenting on it. So I think the existing kind of standard post style format works really well. But let me know what you think about the gallery space. Apologies for the email. When I set up the space, I had the settings where I think I made it so everyone was getting emails for every new post. And then Will quickly texted me and was like, dude, I'm getting like a bunch of emails. What is this? And I was like, uh-oh. So anyways, I turned that off. So hopefully you're not getting emails for that. Although if you want to get emailed, you can go into any of the individual spaces and turn on or off notifications, customize your notifications there. So that is that. Thank you, Bob and Bill, for answering the question. For anyone who's new tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from. David, Massachusetts, welcome. Kristen, who has the Canon Rebel T5, welcome. The question is, what's the most challenging aspect of photography for you right now? Bob says portraits. Bill says deciding on which telephoto lens for wildlife to buy for a trip to Yellowstone. You have the Fuji X-T4. Ooh, that's a great question. Well, I have my personal opinion because I have the 100 to 400 lens, which is a pretty, I think it's the most expensive lens I have. So it costs more than the camera, which is crazy. It's a really nice lens and it's great for a lot of wildlife photography. I have not tried any of the other Fujifilm super telephoto lenses. I know there's, I'm just looking now, there's the 150 to 600. There's a crazy expensive 500 millimeter. That's nuts. I find that even the 100 to 400, sometimes I'm wanting more distance, which is kind of crazy. I even have a 1.4 teleconverter, so that's makes it, I don't know, like a, I don't know, something like, or it's a 1.4, 1.25. It's like a, I don't know, whatever 400 times 1.4 is. So it makes it even longer. But even still, once I'm on that farthest focal length, it is kind of a difficult focal length to handle here for focusing and making sure it's composed properly. But I would say that's like kind of the standard Fujifilm lens. But I'm trying to think what other like cheaper alternatives there are. I'll think about it. But anyways, I've got about half an hour today. I think the schedule said an hour, but I do have a rendezvous at around 9:30. So I'm going to get straight into the black and white photo challenge. But another last update is Photo Dash coming March 11th. Will and I this week filmed the last 2 episodes. So there's going to be 3 episodes. I got to edit them all. One was at the Los Angeles Arboretum. One was at Venice Beach just last night, actually. You could see that photo on the right. We were hoping it was going to be a very beautiful sunset, golden hour day, and take these beautiful California sunset photos during our challenges. But nope, it was super foggy, but it still lent itself to some pretty cool photography. March 11th is when that first episode is going to be coming out, though. So stay tuned for that, because there's going to be a 48-hour window where you get to vote for your favorite photos. And throughout the season, you get to vote, and we'll crown the winner at the end based off of whose photos get the most votes. Super exciting about that. Very welcome. Welcome from the gym, multitasking. That's amazing. All right, let's get into the black and white photo challenge. I love this challenge. I feel like it was a pretty open-ended challenge compared to this week, which is macro photography, which is very difficult because technically you do need a macro capable lens to get a true macro photo. If you're just doing something very zoomed in, small, something like that, that's totally fine. But there is like the technical aspect of, and I can't even think of like the definition, but the sensor size has to be a certain ratio of the thing, so it makes it look bigger than life. There's some technical definition of macro photography, but basically you're just being able to, what macro lenses allow you to do is like you're zoomed in super close and you're super close to it. You got a really close focus, so you can get really close to the image. If anyone knows the definition, wants to look it up, post in the chat, do that. But that's a much harder challenge this week because you have to have some gear to do that. So similarly for the black and white, I picked some of my favorite photos, my personal favorites that just stood out for a variety of reasons. And then at the end, I'll kind of go in and give thoughts on anybody's photos that are here live with me today, or any other ones that stand out, because there's a lot on the platform. So one of my favorites was this one from Lynn Malinoff. This really cool, has a subtle like silver tone, sepia tone look to the black and white edit. This, I believe, was in the Grand Canyon, and just a great storytelling photo of this guy with his horses, mules that are carrying this load of something. It looks like a photo. Aside from the way he is dressed, you can tell this is like a puffer jacket, modern puffer jacket. Aside from that, this photo could have been taken anytime in the past 100+ years. And this location is probably very similar looking for the past 100 years, which is pretty cool. I like that it was composed at this exact moment in time where his head is framed by the mountains in the background. His head's not cut off by one of these horizon lines. I kind of wish I could maybe, it would change that aspect of it, but seeing a little bit more space on the left would have been nice as well, because it feels like this horse is about to like fall off the edge of the frame. Maybe a tad bit space to the left would have been nice. You could tell the shutter was maybe a little slow because there's a little bit of motion blur in the movement, but I think that's totally fine. But just a nice composition. Just overall, everything looks good. These leading lines going back draws your eyes down this path to see what's back there. Just really nice framing. All right, my next one that stood out, Haley McRae, lovely portrait. I think the black and white portrait editing for portraits is really great because you can get a lot of emotion. It kind of takes away some of the details that might be distracting, and then you can just focus on the people. And especially like something like this where I don't know what color this background was. Maybe it was just a white wall, but it just makes your people stand out from the background really well. I really love this photo. Haley, you're here. Great job. And I like the framing of it and the composition. It's not centered. It's a little bit off to the side, sort of like that standard rule of thirds kind of balance, kind of. But I just like the balance and really, really beautiful moment and detail. If I was being nitpicky, maybe like a tiny extra headroom, like just so all of his hair was within the frame, that nothing's cut off at the very top. But that's like such a picky little nitpicky thing. Like I like that the baby's like centered, which is nice. Yeah, just really nice photo. Nice exposure tones on like all the skin tones and everything. You can see their faces, their eyes clearly, even though that, their eyes are closed, you can see their face. So very good edit. Very, very nice. All right, here's another one that I initially was a little hard to see when it was small, but when I blew it up on my screen, I thought, wow, this is a really cool composition. Enrique Orrego, wonderful sort of architecturally style photo. Another example of how black and white photography can be used really well for architectural style photography, just to be able to see clearly the shapes of buildings and also light and shadow that you see here. It's a very interesting composition. I think a lot of people wouldn't have composed it with this big sort of, I don't know if this is cement or what, but the ceiling framed in here, it's taking up so much space. But because it's kind of negative space, there's not, there is detail here, but because it's all kind of one sort of essence, it does push your eye down to what's here in the bottom of the frame. And also generally what's lighter and brighter in your frame, that's what people's eyes are drawn to. So we're drawn to this bottom corner, and you notice that there's this person here sitting at this table. There's like this cool light shining with these shadows on the wall. I think I could have probably played a little bit more with the exposures to get a little bit more contrast, because it is all kind of flat. Even though you can tell there's shadows, there's lights, all of this side of the frame is pretty dark. And not that I don't want it to be dark, but it's all just one tone, and so kind of boosting the contrast might be kind of a cool idea. But just a really cool balance. It's a different balance of elements in a photo that I really appreciate. But just the idea of using black and white photography for architecture photos is really great. Brian is here, I believe, and this is a great in terms of the edit. I really like the edit of this photo, and just you get this highlight of light on this what is this, like a cello? What is that? Is he like playing a stand-up cello? Correct me if I'm wrong. Or like some big bass type thing. I don't know all my big instruments, but it's just a cool, super contrasty edit of the photo. If this was in color, the colors would probably be pretty oversaturated, I would think, if it was not in black and white. And so you can get away with this kind of harsh, contrasty photo, or contrasty edit when it's in black and white. And even, he falls into the black, and there's only parts of this photo that you're seeing. And that's an interesting edit. I think it's an interesting choice to edit that way. A lot of times we tend to try to like boost the shadows, boost everything so that you can see the details in all parts of the image, but actually crushing those darks and shadows and making them super dark, and just so there's literally no information there, is pretty cool. I think the only things for me that I would maybe play around with are there's something back here that doesn't fall into the darkness. That's just like, I don't know, something in the background or something. I would just use a mask or something to brush that and make that disappear as well. And then I think the framing is like this sort of, it's not his whole body. We don't see the whole instrument. So for me anyways, I would almost want it to be a little bit tighter and lose like the bottom of the instrument and like cut it off at his knee caps or so. So it's more like a cowboy style medium shot where it's like from the knees up, and be a little bit tighter. I think that would be kind of cool. Or if it was almost like wider, same vibe. I don't need to see more, but just like if you, I guess, saw the full instrument there would be kind of cool. But I could see how like just even cropping in with this photo would be a really nice crop too. The hand, like something you could do, like I feel like the tones on his face are really nice. The exposure, his hand is a little bit overexposed, so even like doing a little mask on his hand to bring down the exposure just a little bit so it's not like completely lost, that would be kind of cool too. All right, let's see. I have another question for all of you who are here. Welcome everyone live. Thank you for being here. Another quick little thing that I wanted to share before we get to my other favorite photos. Just a reminder, I don't think anyone here was doing that, but one photo per weekly challenge. Please post one, just so that I can more easily sift through all of the submissions. And then if you have several photos you want to share that have to do with that weekly challenge, maybe now you can post in the gallery space. I think that's a great alternative space. So pick your favorite one for the weekly challenge, post it there, and then any others. And then what was the other thing? Oh, I want to ask another question. All right, my next question is, what is the next, which is, I guess, similar to what Bill's his problem with photography right now is, what is the next piece of equipment that is on your wish list? So if you haven't answered the first question, I posted it in the comments. It was, what is the most challenging aspect of photography for you right now? Kristen replied to that saying, not having the money to upgrade my gear. Okay, that totally is a valid, and I guess lends itself to the next question too. Genuinely, because low light is a struggle. Yeah, I think that's one of the things where, like, for low light photography, night photography, a camera that can shoot with a higher ISO or a lens that can open to a wider aperture, let in more light, those are literal things where equipment can improve or help you out with your photography. So Yeah, Very posted a question, I think, in the gear talk section about computer monitors, so a better computer screen for editing photos. Haley, you're on the Rebel T7. You want to go Sony, so upgrading your camera. Abhishek, flash photography and buying flashlights. That's interesting. Abhishek, I'm interested if you just are looking for some sort of onboard light or something that you can put on a stand or can do both with. I have I think it was like one of those newer NEWER. It's like the Amazon brand. It's not the Amazon brand, but it's like one of those basic flashes, and it works really well. And I got a big softbox thing that you could attach it to, and it works really well for putting off the camera for portrait photography. All right, so anyways, back to some favorite photos while you guys are answering that. I got a couple more. All right, next, Martina. Love this photo. Love this negative, spacey, minimalistic black and white photography. Another great sort of combination of photography styles is that minimalist black and white photography. I love it totally. And this one's just really cool with this bird on the stick. Great composition, a little reflection, very clean. Just a nice artistic photo. So really cool photo. I have no critiques of this. I just like it all. And then Suzanne, I believe, is Suzanne here? Yeah, Suzanne, you're here. You shot this photo, and I saw that you shot it with an iPhone, or with a smartphone. Very cool job. I think if you had a camera with a more zoom lens, you could have got another really cool shot here, just zoomed in on this climber. But what I love about this photo, and again, why I think it works really well in black and white, is that it allows us to focus in on the subject and not be lost in the details that you would see with color, with these plants and this mountain, which I'm sure has really cool colors and tones and textures, and things going on. But taking all of that away so that you can see the silhouette of this climber climbing up this mountain is really cool. And I like how you framed it with the sun just like peeking over that corner of the cliff. So really cool photo shot on your phone. Amazing job. I think the only thing that would make this better for me, or just a different photo, is if it was like a more telephoto shot that was like just right, maybe 25 or 33% of this photo, where you could really see this climber, the silhouette of the climber. But it's cool. It's also just a cool, different photo to see the whole cliff and see, how big it is compared to the climber. It's just a different shot. So yeah, I think if this was in color, this plant would bother me, because I'd be like, I'd kind of want to just like lose the plant and just clean it up and see the cliff and the climber. And so that's like me trying to be nitpicky, but like, because it's in black and white, it doesn't necessarily bother me that much. Maybe a tiny bit of a tighter crop so that the climber is kind of centered in the frame more, maybe, but not necessarily. Yeah, really cool photo. And that those were my favorite photos that I saw, that I picked out from the challenge, but so many other good ones. So let me I'm going to open up the Plus platform. And a good question that came in from Viso Leila. Viso Leila, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. No, you do not need a different lens or camera to take a black and white photo. Most people, I'm guessing, are probably taking photos and then editing them in black and white. So using whatever editing tool you use, whether it's your basic smartphone app, or you're using something like Adobe Lightroom or any sort of standard photo editing app, probably just changing it there. Although a lot of cameras do have different color profiles that you can choose in your camera, and which allows you to see while you were photographing what it looks like. And there might be a black and white profile in there. And so some people actually photograph with that profile set up on the camera already. So yeah, great question. I am going to take a quick sip of my H2O. That is my drink of choice today. I already have my cup of coffee. And now let's share the Plus platform. And if you look at this, here we have the new gallery space, which I just mentioned earlier on in the stream at the very beginning, the details about that. But doesn't this look cool now? This is like exactly what I was hoping the gallery space to look like. For those of you who've been around for a while, it used to be sort of like this with a grid, but then people weren't setting the photos as the header image and then it wouldn't appear. So I'm in the weeds of the platform now again, as I do, but I think it looks really great. And just love seeing the use of it already. And it just makes me happy to see, like, wow, these are photos from all of our photography and friends students. This is amazing. And I think, I was talking to Will about this yesterday. And speaking of Will and Sam, they are down to do a live stream. I said, can we do like a monthly live stream? Will is going to Japan tomorrow on a 10-day trip with some friends. So that'll be exciting to see what photography he does there. But once he gets back, we're going to set up definitely for March, but also try to do an ongoing monthly general Q&A live stream with Will and Sam. They're both excited to do it. So stay tuned for that as well. But we were just talking about how like Instagram is it's just no longer a place for photographers to really grow. I see some of these photographers that I follow who have lots more followers than us, hundreds of thousands of followers sometimes, and they're getting 30, 40 likes on a photo. And it's kind of crazy when you think about that. Like if you have 100,000 followers and then you get 25 likes on a photo, it literally just means that people are not seeing your photos, because like it means Instagram is not the platform to share your photography with people. So not that this is the place for you to grow your brand as a photographer, but it's just kind of cool now that we can share our work here on the platform this way. And the other thing, when you post, because there was an issue, someone was asking about the gallery, and it's the same with the photo critiques. When you click to add a new photo, let me see if I could just find a quick photo to do this for you guys. Well, this is the only photo that was on my desktop. Sorry, my face is on there. So the one thing that I didn't like about this is there's only 3 aspect ratios, I think. So if if your photo is not in one of these aspect ratios, it kind of crops it, I think, that's a bummer. But the other thing is that you have to choose a topic. And we did this so that we can keep it organized and people can see all the astrophotography photos or the sports photos, and filter it that way. But if you don't do that, it won't let you publish. So there was someone that was having an issue posting to the gallery. So make sure that you have to choose that. And then you'll also notice, I don't think you should see this yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. You should not see this. But there's a new Photodash space that I'm working on that will be the space to check out all of the Photodash stuff. All right, so I am coming up on my time, but I do want to get to some of the other photos in the black and white challenge that stood out. If you are here and you want me to critique your photo, let me know. Let's see. I know Bob had a really cool photo. Bob, I almost include this photo, but I feel like there's some people that I always show their photos. So I try to spread the wealth. You know who you are. But Bob, this is a really cool photo of this old timey classic bar. I think the only thing that would make this a cooler story, almost maybe, is if there was like a person here, and that's just a harder photo to get, like maybe more awkward to get. But I'm just imagining if there was like, you know, a bartender handing a drink to like one old guy at this bar or something, or a couple sitting there. That would make this a cool photo. But I like the edit. I do like the vignette that you added as well. It kind of draws you in to the center of the frame. So cool photo though. Okay, let's see. David, let's go through, or let's go. I'll go in order. Van, then David. All right, Van. This is, and let me read about your photo. Favorite photos, that was from like 10 years ago. Golden Gate Park. This Lily. Yes, so I like the idea of making that Lily stand out more. And with the black and white edit, the way that you edited the exposures, I think is really cool. The vignette also helps there. I think the thing that I am not 100% sure on is the composition of it, because I do think like that Lily is the star of the show. So I almost want to be closer up on that Lily or something. Now, this was a photo from, it sounds like 10 years ago. So you can't run over there and take another photo of it. But something where, I don't know, there's kind of a beauty in it kind of being small in the frame as well, like amongst this big forest. But I think it almost would be cooler to be closer up on it and it taking up a little bit more of the frame. Not that it has to be like a tight photo on there. And then the other thing I think you could have played around with here with like this flower, which is something that I've experimented a lot in the past year or two with doing flower photography, is just playing around with the angle that you're taking the photo so that you're really capturing the right the angle of the photo, the most beautiful angle of the flower. And maybe it might be a little bit bright, that flower, so maybe bring that exposure back down just a little bit. But just things to keep in mind for the next time you see a beautiful flower like this out in nature. All right, next let's go to David. Oh, this is cool. What is it? Diamond Beach. Ice diamond in Iceland. Okay, I was wondering what that was. This is cool. I love, with black and white photography, you can get these nice textures here, and you really get to see the textures of things. So this is just a really cool photo. Exposure's nice. Gosh, I don't really have a ton of critique of this. I like seeing like the background. I like seeing the details in the background, even these rocks and pebbles in the sand. Exposure's overall nice. Like maybe the only thing you could have done differently was like if you were down, your camera was down a little bit lower, making this ice sculpture look a little bit more epic in the frame. It almost looks like a foot to me, doesn't it? Like a foot, ice giant foot. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a really cool photo. It could even be tighter, like cropped in a little bit more. But I actually just kind of like the photo as it is. Could have been centered too in the frame, but I like the balance with it on the left side of the frame. I actually think like a portrait version of this scene, with it being even more like rule of thirds on the side where you can see even more of the landscape in the background, would have been another cool composition. But for what it is, it's really cool. You could even do just like this crazy shot of just the ice itself, which is a totally different photo, but just seeing the details in here is very cool. Yeah, no, really cool photo. All right, apologize. I am just checking my phone because I'm meeting with someone who's coming to our house, and they were going to text me when they're on their way. All right. JG. All right, here is your photo. Cool trees. This is a really interesting photo. I feel like the quality of the upload that's like a little bit pixelated, so I'm losing a lot of the details. But the setting looks very beautiful, and I think the black and white edit makes it more interesting to look at than color, perhaps. I don't know what color these leaves are. I could imagine them being like a light yellow or green. I kind of want it to be a little bit zoomed out. Like, I feel like for photos like this, the it's hard to tell what the subject is. So am I looking at one of these trees? Am I looking at just the general vista, the general entire view? And so playing around with the composition of like this setting and trying to make it something a little bit more interesting is I think the only thing that you can do to make this a more interesting photo in this setting. I kind of like this tree on the left being cropped out. I kind of wish I had more space to see that. I wish it was maybe more of like some sort of like leading lines down this path somehow. I don't know if that's possible. Like if you were standing on to the left or to the right. Or something. I don't know. I just want. I think you could play with the composition in some way in this setting to be a little bit more interesting, because I think I'm getting lost in just all of the different details. So yeah, I don't know. Take that for what it's worth. I don't know if that's that helpful, but yeah, if anyone else has thoughts on what they can do to make these photos improve them, let them know. All right, I'm going to have time for a couple more. I'm going in order. Enrique was next, I believe. Or David, I missed yours. Did I miss yours, David? Oh, I did David Austin. David Kolb is here. Well, David Austin got a free critique. David Kolb. Oh, I saw this photo. This was very cool. Man, a lot of emotion in this photo. The exposure on this person is a little bit dark. I wish it was a little bit brighter. And I honestly wish it was a little bit backed out, like zoomed out a little bit so I can see this entire photo or this entire window frame. I just feel like I don't necessarily need to be so tight on the subject to I get that you want to be close, you want to see the emotion, and being a little wider out, maybe you lose a little bit of that. But I think compositionally, backing out and being able to see this entire window frame like opened and this person peeking out might be kind of a cool idea as well. So I think that's the only critique I have. I think it's a little bit dark, and then maybe backing out on a composition like this so that you can really see that frame within a frame. Like you're seeing the frame within a frame, but like, yeah, I just kind of want to have a little bit more breathing room here, but really cool emotional photo. I wonder what that person is really thinking of. All right, let's see. Next, we've got Enrique. I think I did show yours. Enrique, yours was like one of the first ones that I showed. I actually showed it in the slideshow. So I'm going to skip yours now and just you can check out the replay if you want. I really liked your photo. Yeah, so much about it that I liked. It was one of my favorites. Bill, let's see, here's Bill. All right, Bill, let's see. Bill. Remember Bill and I, the science guy? Oh, speaking of flower, is this a lily? What type of flower is this? Oh, water and ink. Submerged a lily and dropped white ink into the water. Ooh, very creative. I love the idea of making this photo, doing the work to actually make something more interesting. Um, so yeah, Enrique, no problem. The replay will be live in like 15 minutes or so, or 20 minutes after I end the live stream, just going on the same space. You can, for live sessions and replays, you can click past and then view the replay. This is a really cool photo. I think this one lends itself to a much contrastier edit where the blacks become pure black and then this ink and the flower become like brighter white. And I think I want to see the whole flower. I want it lost in the middle of darkness. I want like this flower in the middle of black, and this the idea I think you're trying to get is like this ink that's swirling around or going around this flower, and just like being able to see the whole thing, I think would be better. Because right now it's kind of like, I mean, it's such a creative, interesting thing that's going on. It's hard for a brain, my brain, to really understand what's going on in this photo without context. And yeah, I understand that the vase was probably too small, but like, yeah, I wonder if there was a way to, you might have been able to get away with a wider shot and then edit it out. I don't know. Or maybe you need to invest in a bigger vase. I don't know. I would love to see the same exact photo. Were you, this is such a curious idea. Was there like a photo that you saw of someone that did this and that you were trying to replicate? Because I've never thought or seen someone do this kind of thing. That's a really cool idea. But also just the edit. I think the contrast of it, you could really boost those highlights and brights a little bit brighter, and then crush those blacks to pure black, and that would make that a really cool photo. All right, let's see. Miguel. And then let's see if I can get to varies. Miguel, this was such a good portrait. Honestly, the only reason I didn't do it was because have it in my favorite photos was because I already had the other portrait from Haley, and I wanted to like share photos for different reasons why I thought black and white photography worked. But something different about this portrait is that it's on a dark background, but the light shining in on his face looks really cool. The storytelling with the flower adds to this a lot. The textures, details in his hair, on the flower, all looks really good. Yeah, and just the lighting. I don't know if you just like shot this in front of a window or if you shot it with actual lights on like a photography background or something, but whatever you did, it looks really cool. Nice portrait look. And yeah, just really cool. I'm trying to think like critically of it. I don't know if it's just me. There's something a little bit like awkward about the hands holding up, and it's probably because I'm imagining you're there and you're like, actually, can you hold the flower up a little higher? Because like maybe what's more natural was his hands to be a little bit lower. Oh, this is you, Miguel. Well, great. So you were trying to get that flower up a little bit higher, but yeah, I don't know if there was any way to like, I feel like if your hands were a little bit lower, the flower stem was a little higher, maybe a little bit less awkward of a position, but maybe I'm just looking into it. Yeah, too much, but really great edit. Love it. Really cool self-portrait too. We might have I think we have a self-portrait weekly challenge coming up at some point in this year. All right, let's get to Very's photo. Very, very, very. With the double exposures, love it. Yeah, I love this photo, and I know you love colors, so I like challenging you to take different photos. This is just like another great storytelling example of how you are using double exposures to tell a story where one of these photos on its own, not necessarily that interesting, that great of a photo, but then you combine them and it's just like makes it more of a story, and just the framing of it. I think we need to put together a course on how to, or like a workshop on double exposures. So I might tap you for that job in the future, because I do not know and understand how to do them. I've never played with it, even though I have the settings. You use the same camera as me with the Fujifilm, but just this idea of taking double exposures is so unique. It would be a really great weekly challenge too, something that I think a lot of people probably don't do. How do you frame it? How do you combine them? How do you choose what photos to combine? Very cool. Yeah, I like the centering of the subject, the back of the head. This could have been like a cool square crop just to get rid of this black on the side, because this is one where like I actually don't mind the flat exposure of it where it's not too contrasty, but this black sort of part on the left of this doorway, window, whatever that is, it's so different. It's such a different exposure compared to the rest of the photos. So yeah, I think I could have done even with a square crop. Maybe even like brought down. Again, I don't know how it works if you're just editing. You're probably editing both photos together, but maybe bring the exposure down on the back of the head, like that version of the photo a little bit, get a little bit more contrast there. But yeah, no, really good photo. All right. Okay. Let's see. I think that was it. Is there anyone here? Jim, you had some great photos. Reminder, Jim, one photo per weekly challenge, please. And if you can, just post the rest to the gallery space. But your photos are so good. I do like seeing them all. This is the first one that you posted, and another good example of architecture photos in black and white, making shapes and light and shadows and the interplay between all of those things a lot more interesting. So yeah, no, really cool photo, and love the shapes, the leading lines, leading all over the place. And good choice of cropping and framing within, just tight on the windows of all these buildings. And look at all those lines, the blinds, everything. Very cool photo. Awesome. I'm going to have to cut it short. I've got my meeting coming up. But thank you so much for being here. If you want, you can check out the replay of this one, as always, before. And replay for all the other live sessions we do. And I will be back next week. I should be, for macro photography. So get out there. Even if you don't have a macro lens, just try to get something where, you know, you're close up, something small, miniature, something like that would be kind of cool. So I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. All right. We will talk to you later. Have a beautiful week, and we'll see you soon. All right. Bye.